This is tracing exercise 10.1 from chapter 10, obviously. You can find this code in the GitHub repo for our textbook. Click the chapter 10 link. This is a tracing exercise, and we're going to look at some techniques for tracing object data as it flows through functions. I should say methods. Functions are another word for methods. I'm constantly constantly interchanging them, as do many people. I'll explain as I go along. So I'm going to get started here in the main method where I have an x. And because I know I have multiple methods here, I think I'll just label that this is my main area and this x is 5. Now this on line 2 I have a new point. So I'm making a new point and I'm passing it 1 for x and 2 for y, and then I'm storing it into the word blank. So here's how I like to notate this in tracing. I think this will be easier in Acrobat for me to type it, so that's why I'm typing it here. So the name of the variable is going to be blank, and I know from the chapter that points have an x and a y coordinate that they're public, so and you can see down here that I'm able to access them as x and y. So I'm going to write x and y here because I know that I'm going to need to track them separately and that they're both part of blank. So blank is an object, it's a point object, and therefore it's a container for its properties. So I will list them like so. Just like main is a container for these variables, blank is a container for its x and y properties. Furthermore, now I can actually fill in those x and y properties because when I'm making this new point named blank, it's 1 for x and 2 for y, so I can just put those in underneath. Okay, on to step 3. In step 3, I'm about to print out, but I see that first I need to call riddle, passing the values inside x and blank. So therefore, I'm up here in riddle for step 4, and it also means I'm going to need a place to track riddle's variables. So in riddle, I also have an x, and I also have a point named p, and I'm going to do my same strategy over here for the point object by saying it's p, and it has an x in it and a y in it. Well, here's the thing about objects. It's the same as arrays, actually. Objects in Java are passed by reference, just like arrays are. So what that means is when I pass a point object in, p is actually not a copy of another point. It's actually pointing at. I'm trying to think of a way to not use the word point again. It's pointing right at whatever the other variable is. So instead of doing this, I'm just going to say the p point is going to be pointing at something else. We'll just leave it there for now. Okay, so at this moment where I'm going from step 3 to 4, the value that's flowing in for x is a 5, and that's a copy of this 5. And the value that's flowing in for p is blank, and p is actually pointing directly at blank. And so I'm just going to draw an arrow that says that's where it's pointing to remind myself. Okay, now I can go on to step 5, which is that x gets set to x plus 7. 5 plus 7 is 12. It gets stored back into x. So I've got a 12 here. And now I'm going to do some addition. P.x is 1 plus P.y. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus x is 12. That means I'm returning a 15 on this line. So this whole thing is a 15, which it means it ends up right here. It doesn't look like I'm updating anything. I'm just printing it out. So the output area, which I'll put down here, is going to print out a 15. Okay, moving on to step 7. I print out the value of x, which is still 5 because I'm back in main. At step 8, I print out the value of blank.x, which is still 1. And at step 9, I print out the value of blank.y, which is still a 2. That is exercise 10.1.